Well, look who decided to get all dressed up. You should look at the NECA ET Ultimate Dress Up ET. Bring the magic and excitement of E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial into your world. As the friendship with E.T. grows, relive all of his earthly encounters or look to the stars and create your own unforgettable interactive adventures. With E.T., the possibilities are endless. If you ask me, the only one E.T. should be phoning right now is a fashion expert. Before we get a closer look at Dress Up E.T., let me go ahead and thank the folks over at NECA Toys that did provide this sample of E.T. that we can have a look at in this video. Grabbing the tape measure now just to see how tall the figure stands. Starting first with inches, the figure stands above 4.5 inches in height if you factor in, of course, the hat, which is non-removable. Flip that around, though, to centimeters, and Dress Up E.T. is 12 centimeters tall. And trying not to get too confused, here's what he looks like next to the original Dress Up E.T. You wouldn't really be too confused, in fact. I mean, when you look at the paint seems so much clearer and sharper with the newer release versus the one we got before. And even though they have both the pointing hand on the left side, the one they now have done for the ultimate reissue ET dress-up version actually does have a glowing finger. The original one didn't have that. Speaking of other ETs, we can also bring in as well. This was one of my favorites that, well, one of the recent ones we just recently had a look. I do like the look of him wearing the robe. This is Telepathic E.T. Again, nice looking figures from the folks over at NECA. We are in fact going to bring back in Telepathic E.T. in a moment, but in the meantime, let's have a look at the accessories that come included with E.T. First of which, you got yourself a pot of broccoli. Does not really look like broccoli. What it is actually is dying flowers E.T. brings back to life. Certainly in the state that they are in right now, that does kind of look a little bit like maybe spinach, just a whole bunch of wilted spinach. In fact, actually at the time of shooting this review, not that anybody really cares, but I've got a whole bunch of wilted spinach in my fridge. I keep telling myself I'm going to throw it away, and then I go and leave it. I come back a little bit later to grab myself a beverage. Oh, that wilted spinach is still in there. I might even just say that loud. That wilted spinach is still in there. To which somebody yells from the back of the room, why don't you just throw it out? That wilted spinach is still going to be there for the rest of the night. It's still going to be there. Probably there tomorrow morning as well. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked here. Nice colors done here. The flowers, for what is left of them at least, you can see there's a little bit of yellow there on the ends. Mostly, though, it's very swampy green. The flower pot, for some reason, it looks flat, and yet when you put it down, it feels like there's like a little bit of a roundness to it. It might even just be my eyes playing tricks on me, but it doesn't look like it's completely flat. But anyways, though, it's something, of course, you can have displayed along with E.T. He does technically have, as well, a couple of hands. But these hands, if you had the hands being close enough, you'd be able to actually have him holding the pot. The thing with the hands, though, is you can bring the hands inward. The weight of it is going to be a little heavier. So let's, just for the sake of this, remove the hands right now. Just wiggle and pull the post off. You sort of want to be wiggling as you're pulling. Not you wiggling. Wiggling of the hands. And do the exact same thing on the other side. Do bear with me as I take a bit of an intermission here trying to remove these hands. E.T.'s limbs, obvious reasons, are a little bit thinner as well, so just be careful. Anyways, just pop that out. Take then the hands that come included with the figure. It's almost as if like these hands came also included, I believe, with Telepathic E.T. And yet really the hands I feel are better suited for Dress Up E.T. Just plug the hands back in. Do the exact same thing on the other side. Is that what we're going to do? That is what we're going to do. Wiggle and plug that back into place. Technically, you can bring the hands close enough together that you can have him holding the flower. Although while he's holding the flower, he seems to actually be holding it, cupping it more close to his body. But it does give you somewhat of a believable look of him having it holding it. You just want to bring those hands really close together like that. I might just end up displaying this E.T. on the shelf like this. He does also come in with the extended neck too. But based on the way he's looking right now, I'm not going to display him with it. I am, however, though, as I put the figure down here for a second, look at the rest of the accessories. He comes with another gripping hand, but again, like this hand really is not wide enough, really. I mean, you could really pry this, but then that would be hard to fit that around the hands or fit it around the pot. You can get it on there, but it is going to stretch the plastic. But that's probably what it was intended for as well. I kind of like the idea of having him holding it with both hands, honestly. But there's this option as well. And I think eventually, too, if you have him holding the pot like this, I think it's just going to start squeezing its way out. Pew! Maybe shoot even across the room. The figure also comes included with a tiny little sashed purse. Doesn't look like it's going to be holding much of anything. You can take that, of course, and just fit it around his arms. I would probably recommend, I mean, you can kind of get it around his hands as it is right now. It might even just be easier, though, to remove the hands from the socket and then put it up his arm and then put the hand back in place. But it does fit technically around his arm as well. The last thing that comes included with the figure was sort of alluded to when we looked at originally telepathic ET. Advertised on the back of the packaging happens to be the same advertisement, or almost the same read-up as what we get here with Dress Up ET, where it mentions an interchangeable head and neck. Technically, this figure does come included with a swappable head and neck. That didn't come included with, though, this one here, the of course, the telepathic ET. Same looking head sculpts. Doesn't look like much does get changed between the two, although this one notably has a longer neck. Being that this one already has a wig, being that that's sort of part of its thing, I don't know if I would necessarily display it with this, but you can, however, take the shorter linked neck that came included with telepathic ET. And in fact, could you believe it? You could take then the head, or this neck, that comes with Dress Up ET, although it takes a little bit more pressure to put this down onto the ball joint. Ugh. But you can actually get the longer neck here on this ET, if that's a look you prefer instead. Now, we are going to be also looking at another ET in a later video. For right now, at this moment, I'm probably going to be displaying him with the longer neck. In the meantime, though, let's put that to the side. And then again, just like the other things that come included with the figure, he's got a couple of other swappable hands. The one I wanted to draw your attention to is this one right here, because this is the hand that also came included with the original release. You can see right away, like the coloring of the plastic is a lot darker. The ring is in the same place, but they actually have colored the end of the finger glowing, whereas the original one didn't have that. While we're certainly on the topic and holding this figure anyways, just to show you the difference between the two, you know, again, like using the same mold, paint really has been changed between the two figures. It's the same mold, it's the same outfit, it's the same wig, and yet the paint is so drastically different. One thing, especially when you look at just the hair alone, how the hair is much lighter and handled so much better. The darker colors would have been the initial color of the plastic underneath, so probably like a dark brown, and then they would have painted the blonde over top of it. And while still, I'm assuming, doing the same thing here, the wig on this one does look a lot softer. It doesn't look so harsh. The hat looks to be in the exact same spot. Hat doesn't look too different really between the two, although the details really on the tiny little flower are a little easier to see here on the newer release. Dresses are also something that are the same, although the flowers, the printing that they did for the flowers themselves are a lot clearer than the original release. It does have the little scarf, which again is just part of the molded of the dress. It does also have the tiny little, I don't know if what kind of would that be? Like a mink? Would that be a little mink? It almost kind of looks like a ferret. Maybe it's a ferret. Maybe it's a squished ferret. Also has that on the shoulder too, so nothing does really get changed between the two. Not that I'm usually advocating at all the idea of somebody wearing furs, but at least when we get to at least a plastic version of ET, I think I'm okay with that. The furs themselves, or at least the one little fur, you can see like it's a little clearer, it's a little sharper, at least the details on what's left of its poor face. Like again, like the dress as a whole, even like the back, the shawl is the thing you'll notice right away. Shawl, in this case, has a lot more silver. The newer release tones that down, pulls it back a bit. But again, like the flowers are so much clearer. The dress also seems a lot lighter as well, a little more paler, something that you would have found in an attic, which makes some sense. And then, of course, the skin tone of ET, drastically darker here in the newer release. I do like the lighter face in this area of the mouth. It's not something that unfortunately finds its way onto the new reissue. And the reissue also gets a little more yellow around the eyes, around the pupils. The face is also a little bit more shinier. I don't know if you can hopefully see that as I have it with the light maybe bouncing a little bit off of that. The other ET was more of a matted finish. Between the two, I mean, it's more personal preference. Bodies, again, they really haven't redesigned anything new here to ET. Like, even like the bodies underneath are exactly the same to one another. It's just, again, like one is painted a little bit different, notably different, than the other one we got before. The articulation on ET here, the dress-up version, is going to be exactly the same as the one we looked before. So the head is on a ball joint. It's obviously it's going to be a little harder to move the head. Even though there's a longer neck inside, well, not as long as the other swappable head. At least the neck is long enough that you can move the head back and forth. Something that you don't automatically see right away until you actually move the head back is that ET underneath the furs actually does have a little pearl necklace. I mean, you'd have the head down like this, it would just be lost. You'd never see in the first place until you actually bring the neck up a little bit, that you see right away that he's got a little pearl necklace. Nice little touch of details. Of course, the head does move back and forth, but it's going to be a lot more limited just by the fact it's got the wig on both sides. It's softer plastic, yes, but it's going to cause a lot more problems when it comes to just rotating the head back and forth. Head looks up, head looks down, also rock it back and forth as well. ET, like the original release, also does have hinge joint in the shoulders. The hinge joint is tight on this figure, tight to the point where I feel like I don't want to bend it too much in case I accidentally break it. Arms do move forward and back, though. Figure only has a single hinge in the elbow, which is fine. I don't think you necessarily need to have a double hinge on the elbow anyways. Arms rotate back and forth, hands rotate all the way around, hinging also back and forth. And then for like his body underneath, it's pretty much null and void. Yes, he does have the dress over top of it, but you can't really move the body that's underneath it. He does, however, though, have a ball joint in the feet, so you can move them up and down as well. This is a figure I don't know necessarily, I would say, if you already have the original E.T., the dress-up version of E.T., need not necessarily apply. I mean, again, if you bring the other two in, or the other one from before, it's not that much, really, other than just cosmetic changes. It's certainly clear here. I mean, anyone being able to see this would be able to see right away that the dress is notably a lot sharper. The features on the flowers, a lot cleaner and easier to read than what we got with the original one. And yet, still, I find almost the softer approach with the face looks a little, I don't know, welcoming on this face. It's a little harsher on this one. The face is also shinier. It's gone a little bit of a darker color. And again, like the telepathic ET, you can see as well, like they brought a lot more of the yellow in around the pupil, which really wasn't the case necessarily with the original release either. Of course, this one does also have the flower. I think the only accessory that the other ET, correct me if I'm wrong, came included with was actually the purse. Its whereabouts remain right now unknown. But this one did come included with the purse, does come included again with that swappable head, which right now I'm using for telepathic ET, and it comes with some swappable hands as well. So, you know, again, like if you already have the original version, I think there's still enough mileage to be made here to pick up the dress-up ET, not only for the improvement on paint in many of the aspects of ET, but some other accessories that weren't present with the original release before. Let's just say for scenario's sake, if I didn't already have dress-up ET released before from NECA, would I get this one? Absolutely, right away. It does, of course, capture the way that E.T. looks when he gets all dressed up in all these old clothes in the movie. It's an iconic look to E.T., just as famous as him with the glowing finger. Now, if I already had this figure, which obviously is the case here because I obviously brought it in for the comparison's sake, I still think I would have recommended this figure, or I still would have picked it up myself. There's enough improvements made. First of all, you get some extra accessories that wasn't present with the original dress-up E.T., but I think also, like, the paint is pretty good on this one. Part of me is almost considering swapping out the heads. This head with the original head, just because I do like the lighter colors that they used around the face, like more solely around the mouth. He is, though, wet, or he's not wet, obviously, realistically, but he's wet in the way they've painted the figure that he looks a little sweatier in this release than he did with the original one. He looks like that technically in the movie, so I can't fault them for that. But the thing is, I would almost want the better face on the original one, but I'd like the wig more on this one. And I don't know if I really want to then take the time and start Frankensteining this guy apart to put together a better looking ET. Even if I was successful to swap the head and swap the face and keep the wig from this one, ultimately though, the skin tone that they used for the face would have been lighter than the coloring for the rest of the body. I can already see I'm working myself up into a dither, so I'm just going to leave it as is. I'm going to leave it as is. It's a better looking ET for the way it's been painted. Some still may prefer the lighter coloring on the skin on the other one, but I think for what it is, even if you already have the other ET, there's still mileage to be made for picking up this one. It's also a newer figure too. Let's face facts. The idea is too, if you're picking up this figure, it's a lot easier. It's a lot more reasonable on your budget to find this guy at local stores than trying to track down the other one on eBay. Yeah, as I always say, don't pay stupid crazy money to pick up those older figures. NECA is always one. Wait it out. Sooner or later, as certainly the case here with ET, if they still have the licensing, you bet your bottom dollar that they're probably going to be re-releasing that figure at some point. And that was certainly the case here with Dress Up ET. Even if you don't have the original figure, I think in the newer one, just as good, if not better. What do you guys think of Dress Up ET? Let me know down below in the comment section. Maybe a better question even to throw that out to you guys, the viewing audience. If you already have the other Dress Up ET, is there enough changed here that it's worth picking up this figure as well? Let me know down below in the comment section. And as well, I'd like to thank the folks over at NECA Toys that did provide this sample of the ultimate dress-up ET that we could have a look at in this video. We also have one other ET that's going to be coming up in the well, maybe not the next video, but maybe a couple of videos down the road. So if you are certainly a fan of ET, make sure you're sticking around to this channel because that other ET review will be coming your way. As well as if you enjoyed this video, why not hit it with a like. If you don't mind me asking, that is. I hope it's not too intrusive to me throwing out that suggestion. But if you enjoyed this video, hit it with a like. If you're loving the content you're seeing and do want to stick around for more, then make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and turn on the bell notification. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.